Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a quick process video for you today. This is for day 14 of Note to Self from Bythewell4God. This day was written by Judy, and as you all probably know, Judy is one of the main contributors. She and Tom take turns writing the devotionals for Bythewell4God, and so I really enjoyed her day, which was titled Think on These. She's referencing Philippians 4:8. And so what I have here is I wanted to use, again, this typewriter stencil. This is an old stencil from Bythewell4God that I've just had in my stash. I've used it on another page in my book here, but because my book is so chunky, I just didn't feel like I'd be able to actually do that because this is the very last page. And so I'm actually working on one of the pattern papers, and I'm using Tim Holtz texture paste. This is in the matte finish, and I'm just going in there with my palette knife, and I'm laying down a pretty thick coat of this because I want it to be pretty nice and bright white when I'm done. So I have just kind of taped that down with some washi tape just to make sure it didn't really slide on me. And like I said, I'm doing this right on the pattern paper that Bythewell4God has that coordinates with their kit, because their paper is amazing. You can do all kinds of things with it. So I'm just going to set that off to the side to dry, and then with all this extra texture paste, I'm just doing that on a little scrap paper so that I don't put any to waste. And I actually got another image out of that I can use for something else. And so this is the page that this is going to go on. It's the very last page in my little chunky book. And I was trying to decide how I wanted to put this on here. I felt like the typewriter was really appropriate since Judy writes so many of our devotionals. And so I wanted it to kind of be a main focal image, but I just couldn't figure out how to get it. I knew if I put it in the middle of the page, it was just going to create problems. So I'm just going to trim this down just to kind of see what I can do. I don't really have a plan at this moment when I'm doing this for how this is going to go on my page. So I wanted that kind of pattern paper in the background just to give it a little bit more interest. And I thought about trying to put it in the middle. I would have had to either fold it or cut it in half, which would have worked as well. But what I ended up doing is I just decided to put it over here on the right side. So I'm trimming it down just a little bit with my scissors to get kind of a better idea. And then I'm going to kind of position it on my page in a way where I feel like I'm going to get the best view of the actual typewriter. Obviously, it's too long for the whole thing. So I'm just marking this off where I want to kind of trim this down with my pencil. And then specifically like over here on the spine or toward like the gutter of my book, I'm going to mark where that is going to be, because I don't want it interfering with, the opening and closing of my book. So I'm just going to actually trim that down with my trimmer here on this left side. And then I'm actually going to leave the right side for right now, and then I will trim that down later. So you can see it's hanging off just the edge just a little bit there, but I will deal with that later. And then I'm going to bring in this pattern paper. I just felt like this was an appropriate one as well, with the pen and pencil. And so I want to trim this down so that it will fit over there on the left side. And then with the piece that I cut off, I'm actually going to use at the top of the right-hand page, just kind of as a background there. And then I'm going to make a pocket out of my little typewriter page there. So you can kind of see how that is going to all go together. I decided to trim this down just a little bit more. And then Judy is one of the team members that I have not met in person, but I get so much out of her devotionals, and they have just always just blessed me. And so one of the things I'm going to do here, I want to kind of color this typewriter. And so I have pulled out the watercolor dot card that comes with the kit. I have some clear packaging here that I'm going to use. And I just kind of activated 3 of the different browns. And I'm very loosely going in and kind of watercoloring over the top of this. You can color texture paste after it has dried. And this is one easy way to do that. You could really color it with anything. Just the watercolor is going to be pretty simple. And so it's going to give me the kind of look that I'm wanting. And so I'm just going in really loosely with a couple of the lighter colors for the actual like key faces. And then I'm going to go in with a darker color for what would be like the structure of the actual typewriter. So where it says Royal there at the top, and then like what would be like the little lever actions as well. And then I'm just going to go in and very loosely just color all of that. I want it to be imperfect. I want it to look like it's been watercolored. I want it to have some dimension. And so just doing this kind of loosely along here just gives it that added dimension instead of everything just kind of being painted flat, if that makes sense. And so I'm actually adding even a little bit of this darker color on some of the keys, and then I'm going to come back in and get all the color out of my water brush here. And then where I've added more than one color, like on the keys, I'm just kind of going over that, just kind of tapping it, and it's going to cause those colors to blend so that there's not a really like stark line on there. And then if you have read any of Judy's devotionals, you know that she always refers to us as dear heart. And so I decided that I wanted to put that here along my typewriter. So this is obviously not the correct QWERTY keyboard, but I wanted to do that. I just thought that would be a neat little nod to Judy right there. So I just used a micron pen over the top of that texture paste and just wrote out Dear Heart across the one row of keys. And now I'm going to glue everything down. I am actually using a glue. This is called Art Glitter Glue. Usually you'll see me using Barely Art's Precision Glue. It's basically pretty much the same thing. It's just a white PVA glue. So I'm going to glue that down. I am going to glue this top piece down. I didn't want to include that little section. There's like just a little bit of that pen from the other side. You can kind of see it in that top left corner. So I'm just kind of hanging that off the page, and then I will trim that down. So you can see I just kind of glued it so it was sticking up off of the edge, and trim that down. And then I'm creating a pocket out of this little page that has the typewriter on it, and that's where the majority of my notes are going to go. So this verse that she referenced, like I said, was Philippians 4:8. I wrote out on some paper that was actually the pattern paper. I have a journaling card with another one of the scriptures on it and some notes written on the back, and then I created a little envelope. You've seen me do that before with my We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board, and I just wanted to put that over there on the left so that I have a place to hold my flashcards. And then I have Judy's picture, and then this little card that says Note to Self on it. I just cut that out so that it looks like the torn paper, where I have that kind of on the right side as well. So now I'm just going to glue everything together. This was actually a card that had a scripture on the back, but I went ahead and wrote that scripture out on something else. I'm just going to use this card as a little layering element. I'm going to put Judy's picture here, and then I'm just kind of holding this for just a second so that my glue can dry, and then I need to create my title. So I used one of the labels and the tile alphas and put the title, Think on These. That was the title for this day. And I had this ephemera piece too, but I wanted to kind of knock back the white. So I'm just using my archival ink in ground espresso, and I just went around that to kind of make it look more like it was on craft. And then it just nestles really well right into this title. That was kind of a happy accident, but I just kind of tucked it there. And then this is going to go up in the top left-hand corner of my page, and you'll see part of it sticks up off the page just a little bit, and I cut off the part that's just over to the left of the page where it was sticking out, but I left the little section that's up at the top. And because my book is actually just a little bit bigger than the actual pages, it will be just fine. It's not going to stick up outside the book necessarily, but it does stick up off the page and just gives it a little bit of extra interest on there. And then I just inked that edge. I had inked all the way around all of the paper previous to that. So that pretty much does it for this day. This was, like I said, this was day 14. So this is the end of this devotional. If you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and until next time, bye.